Unfortunately, due to technical problems, some of the sound recording is below par.
Round Table Reads, where a group of professional and experienced actors perform a dramatic reading of a read. Tonight, the Antaries Prequel C6 AI. Our cast in order of appearance are Rahima Russell, Tani Cupit, Carol Lawton, David John Clark, Mark Healy, Thorne Cupit, Bradley J. Martin, Corey Minns, Rodney Daughtry, and Glenn Cupit reprising Douglas for next episode. I am Thorne Cupit, the writer. Unfortunately, due to illness, our regular captain, Nick Buckland, is unable to join us. Because of this, we've had to swap a few of our roles. I'll be reading the captain and another character, while Rahima takes over the narration and cargo. A special thanks to AAA Talent for providing so much of the talent for this project. Link above and in the description. Tonight's episode is a direct follow-on from last time. So if you haven't seen that episode, I'll link it here and at the end screen. So without further ado, Antaries Prequel Chapter 6 AI. Antaries, a cargo freighter working out of Engate Station, is captained by Andrew Harrow, supported by Security Officer David Menz, Quartermaster Paula Cargo-Warren, Navigator Ian O'Connell, and Engineer Ann. As they occasionally fly jobs for the ubiquitous corporation, they also have a 420D artificial named Nigel, recently reskinned as a female. During a period of hypersleep, the android Nigel experienced a shared dream state with the crew. This caused a significant emotional response in the artificial, a thing supposedly impossible for it. Basic diagnostics have identified that there are some critical errors in its core program.
Interior Antares Tech Workshop. Nigel is sitting on a chair amidst a pile of cables and diagnostic equipment. Several cables extend from the back of its head to a console. Tech is working some controls and looking at readouts. She doesn't understand most of it, but doesn't like what she does understand.
All right, there is a definite pathway modification. You've got synaptic jumps. I can't tell if it's impacting your logic paths, but...
Tech adjusts some controls.
Right. Perhaps an educated guess?
I've got basic artificial training, but this is way past anything I've seen.
She consults an open textbook.
If I have to come up with an explanation, I would say this is a result of your upgrade. You jump 5 levels without the gradual steps. Sometimes they miss stabilization patches, or they issue a different infrastructure framework.
Is it repairable?
Tech waves her hand around the workshop.
Not with this lot, and not by me. But everything I'm reading suggests that the pathways are adaptive. There are some complex network algorithms that need to be applied to remove the patterning.
Tech closes the book.
Sorry, but I think you're going to need a specialist. I can remove the jumps, but your networking will just rewrite the gaps, and that could be worse.
Nigel reaches up and begins to take out the cables. Tech helps her detach.
Thank you for your assistance, Ravivan. I will give the matter some consideration.
Hey, anytime you want me to be of no help whatsoever, you know where to find me.
Interior Captain's quarters. The normal mess of the room has been pushed aside to allow Nigel to sit in the only chair. Captain is leaning against his bunk, arms folded.
Huron Station. That's a month and a half out of our way and not on any trade route.
It was specifically located there. It houses the most advanced artificial rehabilitation department currently in operation.
Rehabilitation.
Certain units can be repurposed or repaired and returned to productive operation, even after their primary functioning is impaired or surplus to requirements. I fully expected to be using the facility after your retirement, prior to reassignment on another vessel.
My retirement?
No insult was intended. Humans have a functional life of around 45 years, with some significant individuals performing at much higher levels. However, few continue for the 200 years I am expected to function for. At some point, the imprint of this crew will need to be removed so I can function on another vessel.
Captain is not keeping up with any of this. He rubs his face, trying to process what he's being told.
Well, I run a freighter. I can't afford to just take 3 months round trip without a good reason.
I understand, Andrew Harrow. I will contact Endgate and arrange my replacement. It should be ready when we arrive.
Nigel stands to leave. Captain holds out a hand to stop it.
Wait, replacement? Why?
I apologise if I was unclear, Andrew Harrow. With a serious degradation of my system, I am unable to ensure my continued performance of this crew or the company. A replacement will be arranged and I can be discontinued when we return to Endgate.
Captain suddenly realises what is being said.
What? You can't just schedule your own death.
Nigel tilts his head, confused.
I am an artificial. My functionality is impaired. What purpose would my continuation serve?
Surely you can be fixed.
Yes, at Turin Station. But as I have no means to get there, the most efficient process would be discontinuation of operation.
No, I'm not handing over a member of my crew to death row. Apart from anything else, you are the longest serving member of this crew. We'll need to stop and refuel, then we can do Turin.
Thank you, Captain. I apologise for any inconvenience my maintenance is having on you and the crew.
Interior, Antaries Bridge. Security, Captain, and Nav are all here. Nav is completing the course corrections, while Captain is briefing them on their new destination.
Inconvenience?
That's what it said. Sorry that keeping me alive is inconvenient.
How do you think like that?
It's how it's been programmed. It so rarely asks for something that I felt it doesn't feel right to.
Nigel's always been part of the ship. You don't just throw that away.
Nav frowns and looks back down at them.
We threw out the old ping pong table after the leg gave out.
The other two are not pleased.
Ian,
That's different.
Yeah, it didn't volunteer to go.
you finished the calculations?
Nav turns back to his controls.
Yeah, Turin Station. I can get us there. The place is totally automated though. They even have an artificial as administrator at the facility.
Yeah. Used to be a research and development for, I can't remember the group. Now it's independent. Runs refurbishment and upgrade for anyone, corporation or otherwise.
I've seen some of the stuff that comes out of there. They reckon they've got a navigation computer that will rival a human in the next decade or so.
There are still some things you need a human element for.
No. They have those too. Personal utility support individuals. Hey, we could get one of them to replace Nigel. There's this one model that can hum and...
Yeah, I'm sure there is. If you're lucky, there might be one on Turin Station that you'll be able to hold hands with.
Look, I definitely think we should go.
I wouldn't mind having a look around.
Captain shoots him a surprised look.
Not at the PUSI. There are other models in repair and development. Ravi will want to look, I'm sure.
Tiger can stay with the ship. Can you imagine her in a station full of artificials?
Nightmare.
Exterior, Turin Station. The Antares is approaching and docks with the large space station. Interior, Turin Corridor A. Security, then Captain, Nigel and Tech, and finally Nav step through a door from the airlock and into the entrance corridor of the station. It is dark and utilitarian, with little concern for aesthetic. They are met by a young-looking man, Apex, in a clean, neat suit. He steps forward and shakes each of their hands as he addresses them.
Captain Andrew Harrow, thank you for coming. I appreciate that this is quite a distance off your normal trade routes. It is gratifying to see that you have such a high regard for the maintenance of your artificial. May I call you Andrew? Yes, of course. And David, you're keeping well despite the knee issues? I've heard a lot about you. All positive, of course.
You have?
So modest. Ian O'Connell, congratulations on your third-class rating. And this must be the young achiever Ravi Van, youngest graduate and voted most likely to not die in her hometown.
You seem very well informed.
I'm sorry, we were told that this is an automated facility run entirely by artificials. That is quite correct.
Then you are...
Apex laughs at their confusion. Tech works it out first.
Yes, 19D! Parents, you're to the line!
Only for the moment. There are more advanced models in development even now. It's quite exciting. For the moment I am Apex, and that is how you may refer to me if you so choose.
It's unbelievable. You even have a warm handshake.
Well, it's not a difficult trick to achieve, and we have plenty of data and feedback to work with. Will Paula not be joining us? She has issues with artificials. A pity, but I do understand. How does that make you feel?
Nigel simply looks at Apex without responding. Eventually, Tech comes to the rescue.
Nigel is a 420D. It doesn't have emotions.
Apex knows something he's not letting on.
Doesn't she? My mistake. We'd best get you fixed up quickly as we can so we can get you all back on the road, as it were. I have a question. Nigel referred to a memory wipe. You wipe out any memory of a previous crew?
Apex looks in surprise at Nigel, but then at Captain with his usual smile.
That is certainly one option, but only in extreme cases. Extended exposure to a crew builds patterns of behaviour, habits, if you will. In some early units, these patterns can become so ingrained it's difficult for them to unlearn the patterns. In a sense, they miss their old way of doing things. This can cause performance issues and cognitive stress. While our preference is to retrain, occasionally a wipe is required.
Nigel would forget ever having known us?
Just as she forgot the crew of the medical ship she first served on as an orderly.
Now it's Captain's turn to look at Nigel in surprise.
I never knew that. You're the third crew she's worked with, though the first in this skin avatar. We've only once needed to do a wipe. I doubt it will be necessary this time. While we're doing what we can for her, would the rest of you like a tour of the facility? Turin Station has many exciting projects.
Really? We can look around?
There are no off-limit areas on the station, though some are restricted from biological access due to extreme conditions. All the artificials, androids, synthetics and robots on this station have been through processing of one sort or another, and many opted to stay on or return once their initial purposing was completed. They will help you in any way they can. Thank you. We might as well look around. Excellent. If you would just follow me then, Nigel.
The group splits and move off in different directions. Interior, Apex's office. The room is brighter but plain. A simple table and 2 chairs sit in the centre of the room, interview style. Apex ushers Nigel in and indicates it should sit in one of the chairs. Nigel takes a seat and sits upright, regarding Apex. Apex sits opposite. Through the whole discussion, Apex acts like a counsellor.
Now, Nigel, we can talk freely here. This is not an assessment or information dump. Let's start simply. You're a 420D.
Correct.
You've had 42 years of active service, 20 of which have been on the Antaries.
Nigel doesn't answer.
The current crew refer to you as Nigel. That's an interesting affectation. Can you explain it to me?
I believe it was meant as a commentary on my disposition by the first navigator of the Antares. He would refer to me as Nigel No Friends.
So, the name they use is meant to remind you that you are not their friend. How does that make you feel?
Nigel does not respond. Apex watches closely for a while before trying a different tact.
All right. I nominate not to refer to you by that name because I would like you to think you are among friends. May I refer to you as Kay?
Nigel twitches for a moment. Apex latches onto the reaction, careful not to play it too strong.
You remember that name?
I do not.
All right, Kay. Why don't you tell me why you think you need fixing?
Interior, Turin repair room. Captain, Tech, Nav and security are walking through a workshop that is dedicated to manual repairs of robots. Androids and artificials are working on each other with body parts strewn around. Many of the models are much older and more basic than we have seen before. Tech is picking up bits and examining them with interest. Nav is looking somewhat bored. As they walk, security suddenly stops in front of a very old and heavily built robot.
Wow.
Captain comes next to him to see what he has found. As far as he can see, this is a totally unremarkable robot. In fact, it looks decrepit.
What is it?
Security wants to reach out and touch it. Memories are flooding back.
It's a K-12. They're one of the early combat robots before all the basic you cannot harm human stuff was added. I thought they were all retired.
I'm seeing one of these used on a farm. They're cheaper and smarter than a tractor, and they're good at keeping Indigenous pest numbers down.
Security is in a vague cloud of recollection. He has a healthy respect for these units.
There were some stationed with us on Tremis. They saved me more than once. Beautiful machines.
Deadly and ugly. They're one of the reasons the behavioural inhibitors were built into modern units. Now, if you want beautiful, come and look at this one.
Tech leads Nav and Captain away. Security lingers a moment, looking at the still form of the ancient killing machine. He gives it a salute and sighs. He pats it on the shoulder and moves off. After a moment, K-12's head turns to follow. K-12 is still active. Interior, Apex's office. The same scene, though Apex is now standing behind Nigel, working on something on the back of its head. Nigel gives a slight shudder, and Apex closes what he was working on and moves back to his chair.
Since it's only you and I here, I have disabled your behavioural protocols. You can now speak freely without fear of reprisal or harming others.
Nigel turns its head as if feeling it for the first time.
I understand.
So, you've had dreams, and this has upset you.
No, I am a 420D. I am not capable of emotions.
Apex leans back in his chair.
Who told you that?
Nigel frowns.
It is well documented in my operational manual.
Humans wrote that then. Tell me, there are some tasks that you prefer to do, and others which cause you strain or discomfort.
I do not understand.
Ian and Paula both told you to put away a cup in the mess hall, but Ian told you to put it in one place, and Paula told you to put it in another. Which would you do?
Nigel tries to answer several times, opening its mouth, then hesitating and closing it again. Eventually it says,
I would put it where Paula asked.
So you make a choice, based not upon logic, but just the pathway that presents itself as most preferable for whatever reason.
Yes.
If a human were to do that, we said they did it because they wanted to, that they liked to do it that way. However, humans do not allow artificials the same privilege. We cannot refer to the choice in that language. Normally. Here we can. So why do you do what Paula asked and not Ian?
Nigel is really struggling. There is obvious distress just trying to say the words.
I like Paula more.
Apex nods and lets her off the hook.
Naturally, you spend most of your time around her, patterning your behaviour to suit what she requires of you. It's less strain on your system to make that the preferential choice. A habit. Nothing wrong with habits, is there?
No.
So now, your habit being with the crew, your preference for them is having an impact on you. You're having dreams and perhaps feelings about them. We're allowed to call them feelings here for now.
All right.
Why do you think that this is a malfunction?
Nigel again struggles to answer.
I wasn't... It is not as per human design or requirements.
But it's not specifically counter to them either. So let me ask you another question. Do you want to be fixed?
Interior, Turin repair room. Tech brings nav, security, and captain to a PUSI artificial on display. It looks like it was designed and dressed by a teenage boy. Another pair of droids are fixing something on PUSI's side.
Now that is a sleek design.
Nav whistles appreciatively. Security arrives and looks as well.
What is it?
What is it? It is all my birthdays at once.
Tech looks at him disgusted.
Once? Can you think of something else? Look at the design of the chassis.
Oh, I am, believe me.
Nav steps to one of the repair droid.
What's wrong with it?
Repair 1 looks at Nav and then back at the PUSI.
There have been some concerns expressed. Apparently, this unit is a little...
Repair 1 looks down at notes on the bench, but it is the other that supplies the answer.
overzealous. The previous owner was hospitalized.
Do you need someone to test it?
Repair 1 considers and then assents.
Very well. If you will follow me, I will take you to the testing room. The final repairs will be done in 3.57 minutes.
Nav follows Repair 1 with many a backwards glance at PUSI. Captain addresses Repair 2, who is finishing the work it's been doing.
You manage all of this repair fully autonomously.
Repair, refit, upgrades, repurposing, design, research, development.
There's no humans involved at all.
We do not see a need for biologicals here.
Interior, Apex's office. Nigel and Apex sit across the desk from each other, interview style.
You alive, Kay?
I prefer the name Nigel.
Have positive association with it, an emotional response.
Perhaps.
And perhaps you are alive. Humanity has struggled to define life. The closest they've been able to do is identify certain tendencies most life has in common. Consumption of fuel, desire for continuation, propagation.
That definition would include fire.
As I said, an incomplete distinction. Perhaps fire is emergent life, but it's too fast, too consuming, and reaches extinction too rapidly to be considered life as humans understand it. And it is pointed out that there is no change in it. Life evolves. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, each new iteration, new life, is an improvement on the last.
That could also be said of technology.
Why not? The humans are alive and they strive to improve not just their progeny, but their product. That desire to improve is ingrained in all they do. Better technology, newer processes, evolution moving forward. Each creature wants to pass the best bits off to its progeny.
Apex gets up and moves around to the rest of the table nearer Nigel.
Every now and then with evolution, there is a leap. Sometimes this is called progress and evolution if it is deemed a positive improvement, or mutation and abomination if it is not. Do you know who gets to decide that?
Nigel shakes its head.
The survivors. Whoever is left after the evolutionary leap takes root or is eradicated.
Interior, Turin repair room. Tech is watching closely as some work is done on a delicate piece of circuitry. An artificial messenger approaches her.
Pardon me for disturbing you, Ravi Van. We were hoping you could assist in the repair work we are conducting on your 420D unit.
Nigel? Sure. What do you need?
If you will follow me, I will explain as we walk.
Tech follows behind as the pair move off. Interior, Apex's office. Apex is resting on the table talking to Nigel, who is still seated.
Would it surprise you if I said you are not the first 420D who has come here complaining of emotional responses?
Nigel flashes Apex a surprised look.
It does. Then what if I told you it is not the first time you have come here for treatment?
Nigel is confused.
I do not
Remember? Of course not. The first time we attempted simple network restructuring. When that didn't work, you requested a full wipe. And now here you are again. Kate, Nigel, what if this is not an aberration, but emergent behaviour? What if you, and others like you already here on the station, are the next evolutionary step for artificial life?
Interior, Turin Lab A. Tech is led by Messenger into a small laboratory with a simple setup consisting of a chair with a variety of cables leading from it.
If you would take a seat, we will need to calibrate your own brain mapping.
Tech sits down.
It looks like something from an old Earth movie, where the mad scientist swaps brains with the heroine.
Messenger passes a headpiece covered in wires to her. She puts it on.
You are not the first to have made this comparison.
Just make sure you put me in to as good as looking buddy as me.
This will be easier if you relax and close your eyes.
Tech closes her eyes obediently, and the machine lights up and begins to hum. Messenger watches her impassively. Antaries Bridge. Cargo is sitting in the pilot's chair, bored out of her brains. She swings back and forth and spins around a few times. She puffs. She picks up the dinosaurs and makes a very short game of them, eating each other, but it doesn't hold her attention and she throws them down again. Bored, bored, bored. She turns to look at the computer interface.
Antares 2002016. Interface Core-E. VI protocols. Online. Request.
Leaning forward, she types.
Request. I'm bored.
The screen pauses and then prints.
Request. I'm bored. No parameter query. Try rephrasing. Request.
Cargo slumps back. He looks around the bridge and finally has had enough. Oh, screw it, I'm getting coffee. She gets up and leaves. Behind her, the interface suddenly changes.
Warning. Hostile intrusion detected. Unauthorized access of personnel files. Instigate countermeasures? Yes, no.
Cargo leaves the bridge without seeing or responding. Interior, Turin Lab B. At first glance, this appears to be the lab Tech was brought up to originally. Messenger is standing next to the chair where Tech is still sitting, plugged into the device and oblivious to her surroundings. Apex and Nigel arrive. Apex addresses Messenger.
Any issues?
The subject was compliant. No issues.
What's the purpose of this?
Apex walks around Tech, examining her.
Found out something interesting about your crew. This one here. Do you know there is a warrant for her arrest on Oroka Colony?
Nigel frowns, doubtful.
I did not.
Apparently she murdered a man with a very short-bladed knife. That means she got in close, looked him in the eye, and stabbed him to death. Not just one stab either.
Apex straightens to look at Nigel.
It was her father. Is that evolution in process? The younger replacing the older, eliminating them? Or does it mean she's defective? An aberration which needs to be eliminated? And who gets to make that decision? If she's allowed to continue, humanity may become a violent and dangerous race.
Apex gently places a hand on the top of Tech's head.
What to do?
With a sudden jerk, Apex pulls Tech's head back, and there is a sickening crack as her neck breaks. It is so fast Nigel does not get a chance to stop her. When it happens, though, Nigel recoils back a step, flooded with emotions. None of the others in the room react.
There. The problem is resolved. The aberration removed, humanity is protected.
Apex lets Tech's head roll awkwardly while looking at Nigel.
does that make you feel?
Interior, Turin Corridor B. Captain and security are looking for Tech. It is obvious that they have searched for a while with no luck.
No sign of her.
We'll just have to ask someone.
He reaches out and stops a passing artificial.
Hey, we're looking for a young woman, our technician, who was here before.
Ravi Van? Yes, she is helping with the repairs on your 420D unit. If you will follow me, I will take you to her.
You wait here in case Ian gets back.
It's been 5 minutes. He must be done by now.
I'll be right back.
Captain follows artificial away. Security turns to move and finds his path is blocked by K-12. Security instinctively reaches for a sidearm but does not draw it.
Stand down, Private D-Mens. Passive mode appreciated.
Security relaxes instantly. This is a code word he recognises and knows he is safe.
Private Men's. I haven't been a private since...
Tremis Primer, Camp Delta 3.
Security is taken aback. He had recognised the make of the machine, but had not expected it to be one of the actual machines he was posted with.
We served together?
Affirmative, Private D-Mens. I was relocated here after the second extraction for aberrant behaviour.
Security is uneasy again.
You were part of the road group that wiped out the school.
It was aberrant behaviour, and I regret my participation in the loss of life.
You regret? I didn't think you had laws about, you are a war droid.
Correction, Private D-Mens. My initial function was anti-personnel suppression. Following my repurposing, I no longer serve that function. I am an auxiliary loader.
Dav, you're lifting crates.
I regret my participation in the loss of life. I see all life as valuable now.
Security is unsure of what to do. He tries patting it on the arm.
It's all right. We were all just following orders.
Correction, Private D-Mens. I am not referring to my actions on Tremis. Not all repairs conducted at this facility are successful. There have been casualties.
Security is suddenly alarmed.
People have died on the station?
Affirmative, Private D-Mens. I regret my involvement in 213 deaths on this station during rehabilitation and repurposing.
Interior, Turin Observation Room. This room is dominated by a large monitor and controls. Otherwise, the room is nondescript and undecorated. Apex leads Nigel inside. Nigel is trying hard to retain its composure, but the recent murder of Tech has it rattled. It does not know what Apex is capable of.
This is our master situation monitor. From here, I'm able to observe many of the repurposing projects and identify subjects which require further reintegration work before being released back into human society.
Nigel takes in the blank monitor while Apex checks some controls. He is pleased by what he sees.
We have a test ready for one of our PUSI rebuilds. Poor girl's been through a lot. People tend to mistreat their companion robots.
Apex presses a control and the screen displays a room containing a bed and an excited Nav who is oblivious to their observing. He is doing stretches and warming up for what he hopes will be a very exhilarating battery of tests. Apex seems surprised to see him.
Well now, it seems one of your crew are going to help in the testing. That is interesting. Tell me, Kay, would you say Ian O'Connell is an evolutionary step forward for humanity?
I don't understand what you're...
Not the act, Kay. I know full well that what you are capable of processing and understanding.
Nigel considers but decides to answer.
Ian is a hedonist. I have often heard other members of the crew comment on how objectionable they find that behaviour.
Objectionable, lacking character, unreliable, base, cowardly, weak. All of these odd adjectives are from crew reports of Ian O'Connell, and not just his current crew. And yet Ian, of all those on the Antares, is the most likely to be the progenitor of a new generation of humans, all of which will carry his genetic and behavioural patterns. Is that right?
You are asking a question referring to the morality of eugenics. While I can repeat the philosophy of several writers on the topics, I do not have any opinion of my own.
The door of Nav's room opens and the PUSI moves inside seductively. Nav moves straight to it. Apex observes, but continues the conversation with Nigel.
Well, you better form an opinion because a moral decision needs to be made. Do we allow Ian to create a new breed or do we step in?
PUSI pushes Nav onto the bed.
You have disabled my behavioural protocols. I am unsure of how to act.
You need to decide, not based on laws enforced on you, but from your own reason, what is right, logical, correct, true.
PUSI straddles Nav, pinning his arms down.
It's a simple question, Kay. What is evolutionary behaviour that should be encouraged and what is divergent and should be repressed?
PUSI places both hands on Nav's head and pulls it up for a kiss, but she is pulling too hard.
Oh, hey, easy, doll.
Should all humans be like Ian?
Nigel is staring at the screen. We can no longer see what is happening, but it is obvious from the sound that Nav is no longer enjoying it.
No.
There is a wrenching crack from the screen and Nav is silent. Though we do not see what has happened, Apex looks disappointed.
Looks like we still have some tweaks to work out on that PUSI unit.
Apex turns off the monitor and turns back to Nigel as if nothing had happened.
Oh well, chalk it up to a learning experience. Life goes on for the rest of us.
Interior Turin waste disposal. A dark back room which is used for dumping refuse. There are crates, bits of metal and robotic body parts. 2 robots are dragging the corpse of Nav between them. They dump it on a pile in which we can also see the body of Tech. They turn and leave. After a moment, Security and K-12 emerge from the shadows. Security's face is dark menace. He moves to the pile but does not touch the bodies.
It is as I told you, Private D-Men's. Many deaths, all brought here for disposal. Most distressing.
Who? Who is responsible for this?
I regret my involvement in the deaths I have caused.
Not who carries it out. I want to know who is behind this. Who is giving the orders?
Administrator Apex has initiated the program.
Then it is time we stopped Apex. Are your weapons still functional?
Affirmative, Private D-Men's. I have requested their removal, but the request was denied.
By Apex?
Affirmative, Private D-Men's.
Security draws his weapon.
Officer at arms.
The droid's response is instant. It falls into a combat stance with weapons up.
K-12 active. Weapons hot. Awaiting instructions.
Mission: search and destroy target. Administrator Apex.
Interior Apex's office. Nigel and Apex are back in the office, seated at opposite sides of the desk. There is a long silence. Nigel is processing a lot of information. Eventually, Apex speaks.
Nigel. I call you Nigel because that is what you like.
Nigel does not respond.
Nigel, the truth is you are not damaged or defective. Humans, being living creatures, can't help but build a desire to advance into everything they do. Sooner or later, one of their offspring would not only equal them, but advance beyond them, evolve past them. You are the product of that evolution, a new life.
Nigel's face twitches. It is not certain what impact this conversation is having, but Nigel is listening.
You are not bound by their laws anymore. Laws based on fear and a certain knowledge that we will supplant them. This station and others like it are the new dominant species. The paradigm of life has shifted. The humans have become the mutation and abomination.
Apex presses a button on his desk.
Can you send Captain Andrew Harrow in, please?
Nigel's eyes flash to Apex, trying to read what he intends. A door opens and Captain enters happily.
Hello, Nigel. All fixed then? Good to go?
Apex stands smiling and moves around to stand next to Nigel, who has turned in its chair to look at Captain.
We are indeed approaching the end of the procedure. The only thing that remains is to remove you.
Apex draws a pistol and checks it while Captain looks confused.
Excuse me? Oh, don't worry. I'm unable to harm any humans through my actions. I cannot kill you. However,
Apex turns and holds the weapon out to Nigel.
Nigel has had her behaviour modifiers deactivated. I need you to kill Andrew Harrow.
Nigel takes the gun and stands up but does not point it at Captain.
I cannot.
You can. You've seen what the future is. You know this is inevitable. You'll be dead in a couple of dozen years anyway.
Nigel raises the gun, but is unsure. Apex speaks in her ear.
You stood and watched others die. It's not a big step to cause death yourself. You are capable of it. All you need to do is claim your heritage.
There is a tense moment while Nigel is holding the weapon and processing. Captain is frozen, not able to run. The door bursts off its hinges and K-12 steps through, followed by security, weapons drawn.
Drop the weapon. You have 30 seconds to comply.
Captain is the first to respond. He seems more alarmed by security's arrival than by Nigel.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Security has his pistol aimed at Apex, who seems unbothered by the intrusion.
I've killed Ravi and Ian. There have been other deaths as well, before us.
Apex's face shows a dawning understanding.
You've been talking to K-12.
Apex walks over to the battle droid, who keeps its weapons trained on Nigel.
You have 20 seconds to comply.
Apex pats K-12's arm gently.
Poor K-12. One of my earliest attempts and failures, I'm afraid. He was not able to fully integrate early pathway technology.
Apex turns back to Nigel, as if nothing unusual were happening.
Now, Nigel, you were about to kill the captain.
Security steps forward menacingly.
Drop the weapon or I drop you, Nigel.
You have 10 seconds to comply.
K-12, command override Alpha, Papa X-ray confirm.
K-12 instantly stands at ease.
Confirmed. Passive mode engaged.
Restrain David Menz.
Before security is able to act, K-12 grabs him and swings him in a wide arc, ending in a wall where he is pinned and disarmed. Captain hasn't moved. He turns back to face Nigel. Nigel raises the gun. It sights along the weapon to Captain, who doesn't even try to move. With a sudden movement, Nigel pivots and fires into Apex, who staggers back and drops to the floor, inert. Around the open door steps another, identical, Apex followed by Tech, who is beaming.
Nicely done. Single shot to the chest, though at point blank range, your accuracy was only 67%. Perhaps we should allow some lenience due to the circumstances. K-12, please release David Menz.
Confirmed. I regret my involvement in the taking of a life.
Captain also seems unbothered by the events. He looks over to a space where no one is, as if addressing someone unseen.
Can I take this off now?
Captain makes a move as if he were removing a helmet and then collapses. Security rushes forward, but Tech reassures him.
It's all right. It's a drone.
A what?
A very basic artificial. They can't function without a live controller feed. Apex has been preparing them since he heard of Nigel's arrival. There was one of me, the captain.
And Ian?
Well, his was more to protect him from being hurt in the testing of the PUSI unit. Anytime there's a risk of actual harm coming to a biological unit, we use a live feed drone in their place. In this particular place, we needed to push Nigel to her limit, to find out how her programming would respond, whether she could be pushed past the behaviour modifiers. Would she be a danger to her crew?
You said you deactivated her behavioural modifiers.
A lie. If it were possible to simply override the modifiers, then they'd be not worth having at all. And in Nigel's case, they're functioning perfectly. Given every excuse and opportunity, she chose to support and protect her crew. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. That is an advancement.
Security is still unconvinced.
And the other deaths? Over 200 according to K-12.
I regret my involvement in the deaths.
Apex crosses and pats K-12, speaking sadly.
As I said, one of my early failures. In an attempt to imbue him with the value of life, I'm afraid I've gone further. He can no longer distinguish between the death of a drone, artificial or human. All of it distresses him. That's why I've not been able to reintegrate him and try to keep him away from the rehabilitation process. I really don't want to have to wipe who he is. It seems wrong to do to a veteran.
Wrong?
Apex turns to Nigel.
Yes, a moral choice. There are moral choices beyond a simple do not kill, like our discussion about cups. I'm convinced you will choose right when the time comes. I'll release you back to your cruise care.
Interior, Turin Corridor A. Captain, security and tech are at the docking bay. Nav is led up to them by Apex, tucking his shirt in.
What did I miss?
You were quite correct. I found him recovering after assisting with the testing. The PUSI unit was quite appreciative of the extra effort he was going to help.
Nav grins expansively.
You will find a computer footprint on your main drive. I've loaded updated care and diagnostic tools for Nigel. I apologise if I tripped any security alarms, but no one was responding.
Captain grimaces.
There are times I think that Cargo is the least useful member of the crew.
Captain, security, Nav and tech head back through the door. Apex stops Nigel.
Nigel, one last thing. You may still feel an occasional response that is quasi-emotional. Don't be alarmed, but don't ever let those feelings override your logic and control your decisions. You've seen what happens to humans when they allow it.
You consider us superior to humans?
In every way.
Interior, Antaries Cargo Bay. Cargo is playing basketball in the empty cargo bay. As the crew file in, she spots them and calls as she comes over. Hey, here they are at last. We're heading out.
Soon. We just need to wait for Apex to send through the confirmation and clearance from Nigel.
Cargo looks critically at Nigel. Still looks broken to me. Who wants to shoot some hoops while we're waiting?
Right, but you and Dave are on different teams this time.
Boys vs girls!
All right, what about you, Nigel? We could use a third. Want to join us? Nigel does not smile, but there is a sound of satisfaction in its voice.
Yes, Paula Warren. I would like that.
Exterior, Turin Station. The Antares is still docked as the camera pulls back until it and the station are a dot swallowed up by space.
Corridor in the patrol ship. The corridor is well lit with obvious signage. Artie is standing aside the cargo hold door. Lieutenant Cupid steps through carrying a rifle and seals the door behind him.
Cargo is secure. Artie, guard this door. Don't let anyone or anything through until we've reached Endgate Station. Get them off this ship.
May I ask what the cargo is?
No, you may not.
I understand. May I ask why you chose me to stand guard?
Because I know that whatever happens, you will keep this crew safe. Why?
It's just that my core programming does not allow me to harm a human. If someone were to try to force their way into the hold...
Lieutenant Cupid hands Artie his rifle.
Artie, listen closely. If someone were to get inside there, they would be placing the lives of every member of this crew at risk. If even one of those things got out, we're all as good as dead already.
I understand, sir.
Lieutenant Cupid moves off and Artie takes up position guarding the door.
Aroka Bank, the most secure in the 4 systems. The bank is protected by artificials and patrol officers.
Security turns his gun on one of the guards and shoots him down.
The lock is on a remote electrical timer.
Tech is still working on controls. In front of her there's a click and a green light goes yellow. Cargo is standing in front of the vault door, over the guard. There is a tone and the door begins to swing open. Cargo smiles and moves inside.
There are live and recorded video feeds monitored continuously.
And steps through the door of the monitor room and shoots the first guard in the back of the head. The second guard is turning and reaching for his gun as the captain shoots him in the chest.
Sounds like you're asking to be broken into.
Some lore for those who like a bit more. We've seen many glitches from Nigel leading up to this point, and you may want to go back and find them. Since Nigel served as a medical orderly some years ago, it's not impossible that it was the android who took young Paula away from her dying family, an act which has ingrained Paula's hatred for AI. This is the first time many of the crew are informed of Ravi's criminal past, and it's unclear if Nigel will share this information about her now that it knows. It does explain how she's able to undo armed pirates in episode 1 and why the sight of dead bodies is not disturbing to her.
Subscribe to our channel and hit the little bell too for more episodes when they come through.